Hey there, and welcome back. This is the second part of the az140 lab series. This is a lab series where I, Alex de Jong, I am going through all the labs that come with the course that is about Azure Virtual Desktop. The reason that I am doing these series on these labs is that during my classes I can see a lot of students struggling with getting the things right because sometimes Azure is just changed, which is normal in a cloud-based solution. However, if you want to follow labs to the letter, probably you will not be able to finish all those labs because, well, portals change, commands change. So this is the lab, or this is the video that goes with one of those labs inside the course AZ140 about Azure Virtual Desktop. Now, this second video is about lab 101, which means this is the lab where we're going to prepare for the deployment of Azure Virtual Desktop. As mentioned in the previous video about redeeming the Azure Pass, we discussed that we are going to follow option 1, or this is the lab series that uses the Active Directory domain services. And that means not the Azure Active Directory domain service. So we are going to create a domain controller in this lab. We are going to also make a couple of changes to the Azure environment. So it will support a larger number of CPUs, virtual CPUs in your Azure environment, because during this training, we actually need to create a lot of different virtual machines because we're going to create a lot of different host pools. And well, one of the steps that we want to take is to make sure that because of we need this many virtual machines to be created, the Azure Pass that we are using for this environment, the Azure subscription, does not support that many of those CPUs. So we are going to make use of that change. So let's switch to the portal here. This is the lab environment again. Again, every time you do a lab, please read this scenario just to make sure that we know what we're doing. And then well, in the first part of this lab, we need to download a couple of lab files, which are Azure Resource Manager template files that we use to create and to automate the creation of the virtual machines that we want to be creating. So what I want to do is I want to start a PowerShell as an administrator. I'm going to use, because it's Windows 11, I'm going to use Windows Terminal in admin mode, which is pretty much the same thing. And in here, we can just now go and paste the commands in the right window here. So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna create a new folder named all files. Then the next step, we are going to download files from a GitHub repository. As you can see, my paste button here will actually just type the text into the screen I have selected. So I always want to make sure that my cursor here is in the right window in this lab environment. And I also want to be patient, allowing the typing to happen. In some cases, if you do use these type options here, sometimes you will notice that it misses some letters or some signs. So if you feel that the commands you are running are not working for you, then please put Notepad in between, which means open up an instance of Notepad in your lab virtual machine, have your clipboard text paste into Notepad, make sure everything is there, and then paste it into a PowerShell window. Now, the purpose of these first 4 commands here is to get your lab files located in an all files folder on your D drive. So just to check, I've created the folder here, and in here you can see that we have created a couple of folders. One of them is called labs. And here we can see that we do have a couple of files that we are going to use for the creation. Here we see, for example, a file called DC11 parameters.json. This is when we create the domain controller in lab01, module 1, lab 1. We need that file. Later, we need also to create a virtual machine, and we are going to use some template files and some parameter files for that. So now we at least know that we have successfully created the right files in the right location. Now, next in this exercise, you need to be increasing the number of CPUs in quota. So we do have a subscription here, which is called the Azure Pass sponsorship subscription that comes with the course. However, what we now want to do is we want to be increasing the amount of CPUs accessible from that subscription. In the lab, they first want us to identify the current CPU usage, and then we're going to request a quota increase. That is the steps that we're going to take in this first lab. So in the web browser, we are already in the Azure portal, so that's all right. And what they want us to do is they want us to open up the Cloud Shell here. And the Cloud Shell is that little button here right next to the search bar. Open up Cloud Shell. And this is going to open up a PowerShell. I want to open up PowerShell here, so I'm going to click PowerShell. And here, what it needs me to do, it wants to create some storage for the use of Cloud Shell. The reason that we need that storage to be created is that we need a file share to be created where we can upload some files in at a later stage to run, for example, commands. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to create the storage. Now, in some cases, if the storage creation fails, if I just click the create button, if it fails, you need to open up the advanced settings. And that means that you would need to choose the resource group where that storage is going to be created. You have to select your own storage account, which is any value between 3 and 24 characters in lowercase and numbers. And you have to set up the name of a file share. So, for example, if I could also, in my case, what you'll notice is that in my Azure sponsorship, in my Azure Pass subscription, if I check out the resource groups, it already created, because of my first create button, it already created a resource group, and in there you will see that it did not yet create a storage account. So what I could do here is go and just give this a name. I'm going to go and name this storage account, or STG-ACCNT 2312 for this month. And then we can go and say, I want to create this for my Cloud Shell. Just a name that has to be a global unique name. Oh, actually, I just want to copy this and paste that. Oh, that's too bad. I was hoping to do a copy paste because I want to use my existing resource group, and this is what I wanted to create. So 2312 Cloud Shell or anything. I'm going to create a file share called file share. Just like that. Let's see if this is allowed. So just click create. And then once everything is done, and this should only take a minute, we should be able to be moving forward here. So let's just wait for this to create. Once this is created, as you can see, I will directly be taken into the Cloud Shell. We can give it some more or less space depending on what we need. So I'm gonna wait for the connection to create the to allow the connection here. Now, my experience with the Cloud Shell is that in some cases it doesn't really look like a nice view. So I'm gonna use the command CLS to clear the screen, And now we can be moving forward. So I'm going to just paste the first command here. And what it's going to do, it's going to go and say, hey, we're going to register the resource provider for Microsoft Compute. Just a command that makes sure that we are allowed to create virtual machines at a later stage. And then we can run a command where they're going to say, hey, where is Microsoft Compute enabled? And what you'll get, the result would be that it says, yeah, we now have indeed Microsoft Compute enabled for the environment. Now here in this part of the course, in this part of the lab, we are going to set up a we're going to create some stuff, and basically what we need to do is we have to make a decision where in Azure we would want to go and well, create everything. I'm going to choose East US as the location. So that is for me important. If you're not sure how to name those, you can also run a command that says get az location. Location. This is, oh, I need to press the arrow. And then I'm going to do location. Oh, is that not all right? Then let me see. Oh, of course, it has to be between brackets like this. So I'm going to go and do this one here. So that's az location dot location. Press enter. And here we will now get a list of locations. So I have chosen in my environment, I have chosen East US, just East US. You can choose any one of these locations that suits you. However, what you want to be careful with is that the decision you make now is the decision that you want. The decision that you want to stick with, right? That's an important step. So I am choosing East US, and then we can go and say, hey, let's just check out the virtual machine usage for a certain virtual machine type, the standard DS version 3 family. And as you can see, currently I am not using anything here, but my limit is 10. And well, that is, and we want to ensure that we have 20 available. So in the next step, we want to go and increase that limit of 10 to, well, at least 20. Now, so in order to go to that, we want to be in the, I want to go into my subscriptions view. So the easiest way is to go in the top search bar, start entering, and then, well, I can select my subscription. Maybe I want to go and bring the Cloud Shell a little bit lower. Here, go in. And from here, I want to be in settings. I want to go to usage and quotas. So here in settings, under usage and quotas, we do have the environment like this. Now, one of the things that I want to do is I want to go and, well, choose only the region that I have chosen to be the region for my environment. So I'm going to choose East US, apply. And then what you'll notice is that we do have quite a bit here. If you scroll down, you can see all kinds of virtual machines. And what I want to do is I want to be checking out the machines that are the standard DSV3 family. So I can, if I want to, I can just go in and say, hey, let's just go and search for standard here. And here you can see the DSV3 family. You can see that indeed the value is set to 10. So I'm going to click the little pointer here. And I want to change this to the new limit of 20. And once I've selected 20 here, I'm going to click submit. it's going to says, hey, but now you need to do some multi-factor authentication, otherwise we think you are a robot. So I will actually have to go and enable. Well, I have to do the part with the code here. The last 4 digits of my phone number should be entered here. Send code. And now I will get that code here. Let's just make sure that we have this in place. This is what we need to do in order to make sure. I do not want to use anything else than my phone number for now, so I'm going to click no thanks in order to not break free from my passwords yet. Now, once I've been signed in using multi-factor, I am pretty much being brought back to where I left. Maybe I need to do the search again, so I'm going to choose standard, and then I wanted to look for the DSV3. This one. Oh, again, maybe my region, not everything, but just East US. Right, here we are. So let's try again. Now I'm going to switch back to 20 again, click submit. And now we have tried. Now we're going to request the quota adjustment. So here we get to see the, this is where we say, hey, that's the multi-factor part, right? So what we have done is we now did the first one for the standard DSV3. In the meantime, we can also search for the other one which we need, and that is the standard BS. And this is the BS family CPUs, this one here. If I scroll a little bit, so here it's now still working. We could go and move away from this. You can see, do you want to leave? Your quota adjustment request is still in progress. This may take a little while. Or if you're not, if you're thinking like, hey, I want to be careful with this, just leave it. Another thing you could do is just go and open up another portal. So I'm going to go and open up a second instance of my of the Azure portal. Just, here we just leave this running. I'll take another one, go back into subscriptions, and I'm just going to go and take the exact same steps. So let's make sure that we are checking out the right usage and quotas. Again, I want to use my, not all regions, but I have chosen East US like this. And now I want to search for standard PS like this. Also hit the little pointer here, the little pencil, set this to 20, click submit. And also here the request is being done. In some cases, Microsoft is not as easy as this. In some cases, you actually need to raise a support request, and you will then have to ask if they can come back to you on this via email. It's not that bad, you'll just have to wait an hour or two for this. That doesn't mean that you have to wait with the rest of the lab, because, well, this is just going to be something that we need in the upcoming labs, but not for this one yet. So you will get the quota increase with plenty of time before you actually need it. But this is the first step. So we'll just leave this for now. And that is that finishes the first part of the lab. This is exercise 0. Increase the number of CPU quotas. Here you can see actually that my new limit has been applied, so it was successful. Super happy with that. Maybe the other one, it's still running, so I'm just leaving this for now. But it's good to know that it's good to know that we have now successfully added that the CPU quota into it. That is that is how to improve those quotas. Moving forward, we don't need to wait for the other one to just. Also, this is now successfully fixed, so very happy. So we can now close that extra browser, this extra tab. And the next step is that we need to go and deploy an environment, which is going to be your domain controller. So I am in the Azure portal. Thank you. And then what I need to do is I need to go, and what they want us to do is in the web browser displaying the Azure portal, navigate to overview blade of the EntraID tenant, and then check out in the manage and select properties, because they want to disable the security defaults. Now, in this first part, it says properties and so on, but the easiest way to just go in and in the search bar, enter Microsoft EntraID. Here in overview, you can see that in the middle here, we see properties. And if you scroll down here, then you can see that my organization is currently protected by security defaults. I'm going to manage this. I'm going to disable it, and I'm going to say my organization is using conditional access. Click Save. And this will disable the security defaults, right? So now we are here at step 4. Then I want to go back into the Cloud Shell. Oh, interaction required. So apparently I have to sign in once more. Very well. And then what I wanted to do is go back to here, and I want to open up the Cloud Shell. So this is where we are, right? So you can open up the Cloud Shell via this little button here, right of the search box. I'm gonna choose PowerShell like I always do. So we created the storage for this. So we are now in task 2. Again, the location, just to check out, we can also verify this by just running here the location value, and it says, hey, we have nothing. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that my location is set to East US again. I did that. And then what it's going to do is we're going to run a command that creates a new resource group in the location that we just chose. So I'm gonna clear my screen, paste, and this is now going to create one command. The resource group is going to be that resource group name, az140-11-RG, and here is going to now create a new resource group in East US. If you want to verify, you can go into the search bar here, enter resource groups, and here we can see that we have now created that resource group, and it's in East US. Just like that, we could now also just close the Cloud Shell pane as it's instructed in the labs, and then here we need to open up a new tab and connect to that GitHub location where we will be able to use an Azure Resource Manager template to deploy an Active Directory domain service in a virtual machine with a new forest here. So what I want to do is I want to click the Deploy to Azure button here. And then what it wants me to do, it wants me to edit some parameters. So here in step 5, I'm going to click Edit Parameters. And now I need to load a file that we have created in one of the previous labs in the All Files folder here in Labs, lab number 1. We need to make sure that we select that az140.11 Azure deploy DC11 parameters JSON file, which is this one. Please do not select the wrong file because your deployment will then fail. Here we can see that we will get some values that we are getting from that file. And once you have imported the file, click Save. Just like that. Now there's a couple of things that it needs to have still. So here I want to select that resource group where I will be creating my virtual machine, East US. There's a user named student. I need to enter the domain name, and the domain name is going to be adatum.com. And then for all the other things, I'm going to create review and delete. What it will create in the end is a virtual network, a virtual machine. In the virtual network, you get a subnet called ADDS subnet. That's what we want. It's going to create an availability set. So click review and create, running the final validation. And then once we're done, we want to go and click create. This is going to take a while. This is going to take about 15 minutes. So now is a great time to get some coffee. I will pause the video here until this is finished. So I will be picking up when this is all done. So I was thinking that, but I ran into an error. Apparently, my environment is not ready to create networks yet. So here it wants to create a network, but it says that there is a conflict and the subscription is not registered with NRP, which I would say the network resource provider. So I want to be, so what I want to do is I want to just check what we can do to fix this. So what we'll do is I'm going to go into my subscriptions view. Here we have the Azure Pass subscription, the Azure sponsorship. Then I want to go a little bit down into settings. And then I want to go into resource providers. And now I'm going to see that Microsoft Network is registered here because that is the one that I wanted to check. Now, in some cases, a deployment just fails. And sometimes we just, we need to try again. However, as part of that first little bit of my deployment, it did create, however, something. So I want to make sure to delete, well, not the entire resource group for now. I want to delete this component that I just created, just to make sure that we do not get any conflicts by deleting the same thing with the same name twice. So it's successfully deleted now. And I just need to go and let's try again. So here we are. Try and open this up again. And then see if we can rerun the deployment. So here we go, deploy to Azure once more. In my case, I needed to open up that parameters file, edit parameters, load file, then it's the domain controller file here, all the data is in here, click save. Again, I would have to set up the domain name to be adatum.com and my resource group is supposed to be this one. Let's just try again, see what it does. I was expecting that maybe the incident or the thing happened that my networking was not all right. But for now, I'll just see if this is doing what it is supposed to do. The deployment ended on the virtual networking part. So if everything is all right, we should now be able to move forward with the lab. So I'm gonna, you can see the VNet is now successfully created. Other stuff is going to be created. So for now, I'm gonna stop the recording again, and I'll be back. I'll move forward when this first deployment has is completely finished. Okay, so here we are. My deployment is complete. To be honest, it feels like it took a little bit longer than 15 minutes, but all right. If I now click Go to Resource Group, I should see an Active Directory domain sources VNet, which is a virtual network. I will have a domain controller here, or at least a virtual machine, which, by the way, because of the template, also has been enabled as a domain controller. A couple of disks, a network interface, and availability set. If I open up the az140 ADDS VNet 11, you will see that in my subnets, I should also have an ADDS subnet. Don't be fooled. The name of the virtual network is az140 because of the course code, and ADDS because of the choice we have made to run the labs in the ADDS format, not the AADDS. So that's why it's called ADDS VNet. So that's what we have. So the next step is that we are going to add another virtual machine running Windows 10 by using an Azure Resource Manager Quick Start template. So what I want to do is I want to open up the Cloud Shell here again, which has PowerShell, just to be sure. I didn't do anything, but you can always check out to make sure that the location is still configured correctly. So in my case, as you can see, my location, for some reason, oh yeah, I know what I did. I closed my Cloud Shell, so I have to go and help the location value again. Just a quick check. And then what we want to do is we want to run that first command here. This will basically go in and it will create a new subnet in the virtual network that we have created as part of the previous lab. And that subnet is going to be named VNet 11. And here, after entering all the values, just press enter and it will change the values and it will add that extra subnet into that virtual network. So that now has successfully been done. You can always, if you want to, if you don't trust this, you can always go in the virtual network, check out the subnets. And here we can now see we have an ADDS subnet, which contains the domain controller. And we have the CL subnet, which is going to contain a client. That's basically it. In the next steps, I'm going to clear my screen. In the next steps, I need to upload a couple of files. And then I'm going to run a command that points to the files to create a virtual machine. However, one of the things that many students are mistaken with is that uploading files is a double action. So you can only upload one file at a time. So here I'm going to click that little icon for, upload and download files. I'm going to click upload here. Now I'm going to select the files that I need, and I need to select the file az140 Azure Deploy CL11, which is this one. I'm going to click open. It will be uploaded. I'm going to click the upload button again. And now I'm going to open up that JSON file here, the parameters JSON file for the same file. So I'm going to choose CL11 parameters JSON and then also click open, and this will now upload the second file. Don't try to upload two files at once. It will fail. That doesn't work. Once this is done, we can now paste the next command into the environment. This is going to create a couple of values here, and basically what is going to happen is that it's going to use those two files as the files to deploy a new virtual machine, and that virtual machine will be deployed into the client subnet. So here we are, press enter. You see nothing happening at this point. That means it is working. You do not need to wait for the deployment to complete, but you could be immediately moving forward to the next task. And this is where we are going to go and create an Azure Bastion. So basically, what it says here is go and open up another tab. Just do it on the side. Open up another Azure portal.azure.com instance here, and then again open up the Cloud Shell like this. And what it is going to do here in the next step, we're going to run yet another command to create yet another subnet in the exact same virtual network that we created. And this subnet is going to be named the Azure Bastion subnet. This has to be the exact name for the Azure Bastion subnet. So here we are. It's going to give it an address space. And once we are done, we can just go in and say, okay, let's accept this. And it will create a new extra subnet. In the meantime, we could also check a little bit back. Here we can see still nothing. Leave it like that. Because this is exactly what's supposed to happen. In the back, it will deploy something. We'll see when it's finished. So back in this one, in the second tab here, we are going to close the Cloud Shell, right? Then we are going to search for bastions like this, and we will now create a new bastion. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that the bastion is created in the right resource group. We're going to give the bastion a name. As supposed, East US was the location. I'm going to choose the basic tier, which is the cheapest form of a bastion, which is good for us. We are going to select the network here. So please make sure to select the name of the VNet, az140 ADDS VNet 11. And as part of creating the bastion, it needs a new IP address. Just leave the name here. Is that correct? Well, just to be sure, just enter it correct once more here. And then when we are done, right, with all of that, click review and create. Wait for the checks to be finished. And then we're going to click create. Creating the bastion also takes a little time, and we need to wait for this to finish because we need that bastion in exercise 2, which is about setting up EntraID Connect, which is that something we used to know as Azure Active Directory Connect, but here we're going to run EntraID Connect to start, well, creating some users, setting up the integration between the on-prem, well, the virtual on-prem Active Directory that we created on the domain controller and the EntraID environment. So this is quite a bit of work, as you can see. But still, we first have to wait for the bastion to finish. So I will pause the video until that is done. In the meantime, by the way, you can also monitor that other tab. Still a blinking cursor. Leave it like that. The deployment is still on its way. So for now, stopping the video, moving forward when the bastion has been deployed. So here we are. The bastion is done creating. Took a little while. Also on the other tab, we can also see that now the other virtual machine that we created using the Azure Resource Manager template files is now also successfully created. So in the next steps, we are going to dive into the newly created domain controller as part of this lab. And we're going to run a couple of commands in PowerShell here. It's quite a few. However, they are not rocket science, so they should pretty much all work. So let's just go and run through these commands. It's exercise 2. Integrate a Microsoft Entra Forest with a Microsoft Entra tenant. The Entra Forest is the new name for the on-premise Active Directory domain servers. So, well, I created a virtual machine. We actually have 2 now. They are both running. At this point, I do not really need that client. To save money, I'm going to select that client and I'm going to click stop here. And the next time I need it, I will just have to remember to start it again. Then my domain controller is here. And what I want to do is now I'm going to go and connect to the domain controller like this via the bastion. And then I am going to sign in with the account student and the password that has been created as part of the template file. And oh, there's a pop-up blocker. So allow that pop-up blocker first and try again. And here we are. Your clock is behind. Oh, this is interesting. My clock is behind. I would say that I want to set my time automatically. This doesn't happen very often. Maybe I want to go and synchronize the time now, just to make sure that everything is all right. Maybe just try one more time, because my clock is all right. But here we are. So I am now able, after allowing a couple of things, but I am at least able now to connect to the main controller. I do this via the browser. So yes, it worked. Very, very nice. And then within the remote desktop session, I would need to open up the Windows PowerShell ISE as an administrator. So let's just do that. And so I'm gonna say yes. And then I want to get rid of a couple of things. Then open up something with PowerShell, and I'm going to use the Windows PowerShell ISE here, and then I'm going to run it as administrator. That is important. So here we are. Windows PowerShell loading inside my virtual machine. And then it says, okay, now we can start entering some paste. What they want us to do is you want to, from the PowerShell script pane, which is the one here in the top, we can go and say, hey, let's just paste it in first. Wait for everything to be completely pasted in that environment like this, and then hit that run script button. Here it says, hey, something went wrong because of the Internet Explorer thing that is happening. Oh, you know what? Just to be careful, I just want to be careful. Just to be sure, just to be sure, because he, you know what? I need it, man. This is a mistake that everybody does. I do it all the time. I started Windows PowerShell here, but this is, if I use this start button, I am using the start button of the virtual machine I use to work with Azure. I have to be within my remote desktop session, so I have to start it here. And then I want to be running, so if I do here and I search for my PowerShell ISE, right click, more, run as administrator. Man, okay, so this is going to be better. So you can see that sometimes, you know, even after I've been running these labs for quite a few times, still, you know, sometimes still I am doing the wrong thing. Oh, see what happens if you click halfway the pasting process. That will also mess things up. So I want to be making sure that my cursor is in the right location. Then paste, wait for the paste to finish. So I'm going to be a little bit patient here. And now I can go in and click that, and this is better. So no response in PowerShell means a good response. So once this is done, I am now going to replace my commands. Now, if I think my connection is all right, I can just paste straight into the command window here. However, sometimes you will notice that during this part of the lab, sometimes the typing or entering the text like I'm doing here, like using that clipboard feature, sometimes it will lose a couple of characters here. If you see that this is the case, make sure to paste in the script pane first, and then modify the content. In some cases, you want to be using the script pane first. Let me show you what I mean with that. Here, for example, in step 8, I need to change a certain value. I want to replace something with a certain other placeholder here. So in that case, I want to make sure to paste everything into the script pane first, like this. And then I will be changing the password value before I'm gonna run it. So let me just wait this to be finished. And what we see here is that in this script, it will create 9 different user objects, user 1 through 9, and it will create a WVD admin or Windows Virtual Desktop admin, which is the old name for Azure Virtual Desktop. Do not change all this. The only thing you want to change here is the password, like that. And I am going to be lazy. I'm going to use that. Oh, okay. I'm going to use a password, which is pretty much the same password as we use everywhere. So I'm going to use the password, which is PA55W.RD1234. And I'm going to use the exact same password also for that admin user a little bit further down. So also here I would need to change this value of the password to that value that I just copied in. Once this is done, I am now able to run the script, and this will just create a set of users. So that is done. Let's just do a little clear of the screen. And we're going to create a couple of new groups in Active Directory domain service. So we'll just check out if we don't see any red lines for so long. At this point, the pasting part in my lab is pretty much all right, right? You can see that, there we go. So then we found something, and it says, and here we can see, for example, it misses some of these commands, right? You see that sometimes it just misses things. Now the first 3 worked. So what I want to do is I'm gonna go and make sure that I'm gonna paste this again in here. And let's just wait for this to happen again. Yeah, this is sometimes it just happens if you paste larger portions of text into a scripting pane like we do now in this part of the exercise. Sometimes it just fails. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and what do I want to do? I want to go in and say that I want the first 3. They worked. So I'm going to delete those. And then the only thing left for me to run is these 2. Okay. Wait a second. Did that work? Not yet. So let me just try again. This is useful. Let's try. Then it says this group already exists. Perfect. So that's what I wanted. So apparently everything is created. Just to check out, there's a new Active Directory group. There's 5 of them, and they have been created in an organizational unit that we have set up earlier, which is this organizational unit. So just, I just want to be sure. So let's just open up the Active Directory users and computers here. Then I have created this, and here we can see that we do have indeed the groups created that we wanted to be created. So here we are. So this is all right. Now let's go back, and I want to be more careful now. So I'm going to paste this And it's going to now add members to the group, as you can see. So we have the different groups will get different members of the users that have been created earlier. So we'll just leave this here. And once this is done, run the script, and this all seems to be all right. Now, one of the things in this lab, one of the things that we see in the lab environment here is that the Active Directory domain service here is called adatum. Now, adatum is of course used by Microsoft already. Typically, what we wanted to do is you want to set up your on-premise Active Directory domain has to be also created in your Microsoft Azure Active Directory or your EntraID name. However, adatum is obviously already used in Azure. So one of the things that we want to do is we pretty much want the domain name that is being used in your Azure Active Directory is now going to be the domain name that we are going to use in your on-premise Active Directory. So instead of having Azure Active Directory follow your on-prem Active Directory, for the purpose of this lab, we are going to have your on-premise Active Directory follow the name of the Azure Active Directory, just to make sure that we can work with that. So the primary domain in my case is my Outlook address on Microsoft.com. So what we are going to do now is we're going to run a couple of commands that is going to add a UPN suffix in the environment to get the tenant name and then add that into to get that extra domain name in here. So here it's going to create that UPN suffix and then it's going to assign the domain name differently. So in the lab, we're going to do a lot of steps here to get that. If you want to do this the easy way, like the simple way, is to go in and take this domain name here, right? Take this, copy that, go to the environment here, open up from the administrative tools, Active Directory Domains and Trusts. Right click Active Directory Domains and Trusts and go to Properties, and then just paste. Oh, that's a wrong button. Paste, is that allowed? Apparently not. But you want to copy this piece of text here, right? Copy that. And this is what we then want to be putting in here. So I can just type if I want to ADJ2312 AZ1 for the Outlook. Yeah. So we want to do ADJ2312. Then what did I do? az140 outlook.onmicrosoft.com, because that is what we want there. Just this name, we want to paste that right here. So that is the steps that we're going to take. However, if you would follow the labs, I'm gonna cancel this for now. But if you are going to take the labs here, then we are going to take some steps. First of all, is going to change a couple of values, which are very useful, by the way, to still do. So that's what I'm going to just run anyway, the way that the lab is supposed to be happening. So here we are. So I'm gonna allow installations of stuff. I want to allow installations of a lot of things here. It's now going to download components we need in order to add other PowerShell modules here. And this is still something we want to be doing anyway. So we're going to run through the labs. Then I want to run this command like this. This will install the Azure modules. I'm going to click yes to all because I want to deploy everything here. And then once this is installed, I want to be running the connect AZ account in order to connect to the Azure Active Directory. Oh, sorry, to the Azure environment. Now also installing the PowerShell modules for Azure takes a little while, so I'm gonna stop the video and we move forward when the deployment is done. So here we are. The Azure modules for PowerShell have been installed. Next command is connect to the Azure account here. So connect AZ account. And in order to connect, you would need the account that you have used to connect into Azure in the first place. So in my case, that account is this one. Where is it? The one here. ADA, and then my entire domain name here. So I'm going to go in, and this is what I want, which is that account here. So I'm going to go and search ADA 2312. And then what did I do? Let's just check quickly. Dash az140 at outlook.com. So dash az140 at outlook.com. Let's see. Obviously, I also entered a password that goes with that. And if everything is all right, we now have indeed connected, and we can see the subscription for the Azure Pass here. So that worked. So yes, we signed in. Now we can run another. Let's see if it can find the context of the tenant ID. And then it needs some more. So I am going to run these two commands here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to paste them in the scripting pane first. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to only run that first line here. So I'm going to put my cursor in the first line, run that. That will first at least install the Azure Active Directory PowerShell module. And once this is done, we can then import it so we can start using it. So we can see it's still sort of trying to finish the install. Once this is done, I can select the second line and then run that only second line here. So let's do that. We have to be patient apparently. So let's be patient. Oh, here we go. So done. Let's run. Import the module. Perfect. Next command is let's connect Azure AD using the tenant that I want to connect to. I need the same account. Well, luckily it memorizes this, so we can be moving forward. And now what will happen, it's going to create a variable, which is my Azure Active Directory domain name. We already know the Azure Active Directory domain name. It's here, but well, in this lab, we are now going to run a command to get this out of the view. So here we can see that it's going to read that. If I want to check what the value is, we can actually do AAD domain name, just open up the variable and see what it has. And you can see this is the exact name I was expecting. Then we are going to add that as a UPN suffix in my Active Directory domain service like this. Now, if I would check here with administrative tools, Active Directory domains and trusts, here, right click properties. Here we can see that now we have added that UPN suffix. The next step is that our users should start use that UPN suffix. So here again, it's multiple lines. So I'm going to paste it into the scripting pane first. And here you will see that it's going to change the user principal name with that new user principal name here. So let's just run this script. And now, if I check, for example, any of those users here, we can see the account, and you can see that the user principal name now has been updated with that name in Azure Active Directory. So yes, that indeed worked quite well. Let's see, did I do that? Yes. Now I want to run the other commands here, which is the command that is going to also make a difference for a user called student.adatum.com, because that is going to be the that's the admin, the domain admin, right? So the domain admin is still going to be student.adatum.com. So that ends task 2. Now we want to create a user in Active Directory that is going to be used for performing the directory synchronization. So I want to go and paste my script into the scripting pane because I do need to change a password at a later stage. So as we see here, I want to create that same password for this value. So I'm going to go and make sure that this is updated like this. Run the script again. Yes, it created the user. Super happy. Then I just want to be sure to do want to be careful here. So I'm going to paste the next script. So it's going to use that user, and it's going to also check out who the global admin is. Oh, it will make that user that I just created a global admin. All right, so that happened very well. Now let's see if we can, well, read the information about that user. It's called AAD sync user at, and then my domain name like that. So that worked. And then in task 4, we are going to deploy Azure Active Directory Connect. So what we'll do is, first of all, we need to run a script that will allow TLS version 1.2 to run on this Windows Server version. That is an update that is required for Microsoft EntraID Connect in order to be able to communicate with the internet. So I am going to leave this. Pasting takes a long time. Sometimes, like I mentioned earlier, you may run into an issue where some of the text is not being pasted in its entirely. So if you see some errors running the script, you might want to go and check a little bit on on the text. Make sure that everything is all right. While pasting text, do not click anywhere because you will move your cursor away from where it is pasting at the moment, and it will screw up your pasting process as well. So we'll just leave this here. It's, what is it, 12, 13 lines. So I want to be waiting for this. The next line is the right host line. So let's just go in and, well, once this is all done, click run. And if you see no errors, everything is all right. So yes, this worked. Now, what it wants me to do is deploy the EntraID Connect machine. So, oh, first it wants me to, okay, yeah. So this is a Windows server and it has Internet Explorer. Now, Internet Explorer obviously is not what we want. So what we need here is we need to go in and first make sure that Edge is being deployed. Now, I have seen occasions where this particular step failed and we had to switch to Chrome. Just fine. Any browser will do. Let's just see if this Internet Explorer is allowing me to deploy the Edge browser. Well, it seems to be working all right. So let's just wait for Edge to be deployed. And then within Edge, we need to go and from Edge, we'll go to the Azure portal, and this is where we will be going to start and deploy EntraID. Now, in this Azure portal, I'm not sure if it's mentioned in the steps in the lab here, but what you want to do is, if you start Edge for the first time, I'm going to click Start Without Your Data, then Continue without this data, and then confirm and start browsing. Now we are in Edge, and this is where I want to be opening up the Azure portal. I need to be signing in with that account that we have been using before. So in my case, this is my account, which is, what was it again? az140 at outlook.com. See, this is why you want to write down these credentials. Sign into Edge, get signed in everywhere. Well, not for now. My password. Like this. Well, not for now. I'm going to stay signed in. And now we should be somewhere here. I want to open up EntraID like this. And now we need to search for Connect Sync and Azure EntraID Connect. So in this overview page, if you scroll a little bit further down, then what we can do is here under Microsoft Entra Connect. It's not enabled, but this is what we want to enable. So I'm going to go to Entra Connect. And here we have two options. We have Cloud Sync. That is one option. Or we have Connect Sync. So I'm going to click Connect Sync here. This is what I need. And then I can click Download Entra Connect. So somewhere here. So I'm going to click Download. Make sure you are downloading version 2 or newer. So yes, we are downloading. It's an MSI. So in the end, we want to run it. So open the file. And then this is indeed running EntraID Connect. Let me minimize this here. Now here we can go and, well, at one point we are going to agree to stuff. Yes, let's agree to stuff. Let's click continue. Then, as you should never, ever, ever use the express settings, you will just go and click customize, but now you will leave all the defaults and just click install. This will install Microsoft EntraID Connect. Now, this is going to take a few seconds. And once this is done, there's a couple of settings that we need to do in order to set up this deployment right here. So let's just wait for, well, it's Azure Active Directory Connect to be deployed. In the portals, it is named EntraID Connect, but EntraID and Azure Active Directory, we are in the middle of migrating or renaming Azure Active Directory into EntraID, and well, Microsoft has not got the time to make those changes just everywhere in all the different portals. So we'll just leave that from here. So setting up the synchronization service, making sure that everything is configured. One of the things that we need to configure is the password hash synchronization, as you can see here in step 12. So I'm just gonna go and well, we still need to wait for my service or for the EntraID Connect software to be deployed. And here we go. So took like 2 minutes maybe. I'm gonna select password hash sync, click next. Yes, then I have to sign in with my Azure Active Directory account. Again, this is this account that I created my Outlook account with. So az140 at outlook.com for me. And sign in. Oh, what? Let me do a quick check. Oh, yeah, not allowed. I have to use that AAD sync user. That's the one. See? So AAD sync user. Oh, you know what? Let's check back here or here. Where did I go? Because we did do that, right? We created that AAD sync user. We can actually check it out here. Probably here. Is it here? I created the user, I'm pretty sure. And then, oh, you know what? It's not a local user. So if I'm curious about that user, go into my EntraID, go to my list of users. And here I have created that AAD sync user. So I'm going to copy the user principal name to the clipboard. And then here, this is going to be the username. Yes. And my password is going to be a different password. But here we go. This is better. See? It has to be the AAD sync user. Then I want to sign in into the local directory. I'm going to leave datum, right? I am going to create a new Active Directory first account. I'm going to just paste the password in. It will just create an account for adding the forest into the tool. Then we can be moving forward. And I'm going to continue without matching all UPN suffixes to the verified domain. This is expected. So I'm going to leave this. And here I want to make sure that I do not synchronize the entire domain, but I only want to select the to sync OU here in this list. Click next. Here I'm gonna leave the default settings, uniquely identifying your users. Click next. On the filtering part, I'm gonna click leave the defaults. Click next. Optional features, I'm gonna accept the default settings. Click next. And now, once it is, well, it is almost done. So here, let's click install. Here it says ready to configure. Ensure that the start the synchronization process when configuration completes checkbox is selected, and then click install. So yes, it's selected. Click install. This is going to take a few minutes. And now basically the next step to finish the lab here, because we are now done with this lab prepare preparing the Active Directory environment, the Azure environment for the rest of the labs, we can basically wait for this to finish. But one thing that we want to do at one point is once this is running, then here you should see more users here, right? So we can see already we got an extra user, which is that synchronization user. But once my EntraID Connect tool is finished downloading and installing and configuring everything that we have set up, once this is done, you should be seeing the users that we have created during the labs come into Azure Active Directory. If that is the case, you know that you have configured the entire lab correctly. So everything worked up till now. It's super important that this lab is done by its completion, because otherwise any other lab in the rest of the course is not going to work. So this is why I find it very important to take these steps slowly and take them thoroughly, because everything needs to be configured just right. So every now and then I'm super impatient, so I'm gonna click refresh way too often and way too soon as well, because actually it's now, well, almost done deploying the Azure Active Directory Connect tool. Obviously, when you're done with a lab, so if, for example, this is the last lab that you want to do today, please make sure that in Azure, you stop the virtual machines. But in this case, do not stop the virtual machine, do not stop the domain controller before you have been, before you see the users coming into Azure Active Directory. Because if that is not done yet, the users are not in Azure Active Directory yet, well, then you will have to be patient the next time you start the entire environment. So for now, I'm just going to leave this running for a bit until all is done and until my users are being synchronized from Active Directory domain service into the Active Directory. So here we are. The configuration is complete. So I'm going to click exit. And now in the back, we will see that the synchronization is going to kick in. So I'm going to click refresh a couple of more times, and in a couple of minutes, I will start to see more and more users kick in. It's only going to be 9 or 10 users. Here we go. So there's user 1 through 9 and a Windows Virtual Desktop admin account like this. So yes, this is exactly what we want. If this is the last lab that you're going to perform today, what you want to do is go into Azure, click Virtual Machines. This is your list of VMs now. In the rest of the course, we will be adding more and more virtual machines. Select the domain controller like this and click stop, and that will stop this virtual machine. You will know that this works because that is the virtual machine that I was connected to in the first place. So here we are via another entry point of the browser. Let's check out my VMs. You can see it's the first one is the client is stopped. My domain controller, if I connect to it, you can see the status is running now, but if I refresh soon, it says deallocating or stopping sometimes. And once it's completely done, it is going to switch to deallocated. And once everything is deallocated, here we are, stopped deallocated, we can then go into the home tab of the lab environment here, click exit lab and click save lab. This will save your changes in the Hyper-V environment, and we can then move forward with the other labs another time. So this is the end of the lab that we use to create or prepare the environment for the rest of the course. We created a virtual network, we created a domain controller, we created a client virtual machine, and on the domain controller we have integrated the Active Directory domain service on the domain controller and connected it to the EntraID or Azure Active Directory for the purpose of, well, having people sign in, obviously. So with that, we come to an end of this video on the the first actual lab for the Azure Azure Virtual Desktop Training az140. Obviously, the next video on this matter is going to be the one that we are going to create an actual Azure Virtual Desktop environment, right? So thank you for watching. I know it was a long one, but if you have followed all these steps, you are now ready for the next labs in the Azure 140 course. Thank you, goodbye, see you next video.